Fog machine. It should be there. You just hit the button, James.
Can somebody tell me where our hosts are?
Yeah.
What?
I sound scared that you could hear me chewing.
I heard like a hum.
White on set.
Alright, let's get this done.
Roll camera. Roll sound.
Action.
Welcome to All the Hats, a podcast about filmmaking and industry. Hello and welcome to a all-new episode of All the Hats, a podcast about filmmaking and industry. We have another guest today, a new guest for a new episode. This is one that actually James, again, did on his own, another interview he did on his own back in Virginia a few weeks back when he was working on a short film doing, of course, sound, because that's pretty much all James likes to do is sound. So James, I mean, who are we listening to today?
This is Caleb Radecki. I met him when I worked on a different film in Virginia, and we worked on the same project. So, and then he called me up and was like months, pretty much right after we finished the other film. He was like, I want you on my film, and I was like, yeah. So, just a lot of time passed, and finally I went up there and did it. So.
Great. Well, why don't we go ahead and jump right on into that interview then?
Hi, my name is Caleb Radecki, and this is my final year of being a film student.
So you the past 5 days you've been working on your film. Can you just give me a general overlook of that?
Yeah. It was so cool and kind of surreal to be planning for something for a little over a year, and then to actually be directing it. It's a pretty surreal experience. I'm so happy with the way it turned out.
Good.
For sure.
Did you realize something now that you didn't know before?
I think one thing I've realized is how to treat people on a set. Because that's not something you necessarily learn in class. Your teachers may touch on it, but a lot of crew etiquette is something that's learned just by experience. And so being on the set, I learned how to treat my talent with respect, how to not rush anyone, but to give my talent time to breathe and to do their best performance. And as a director, to do anything I can to make sure that they're comfortable in what I'm having them in.
What you're having them do, basically. Mm-hmm. So you did have a fighting scene.
I did.
And I know you guys showed up really early before everyone else.
Yes.
And went over the choreography, because it's basically a dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did that go? Because I wasn't even there for that.
Yeah, we got there at 6:30 in the morning until the coffee shop opened up, and then we went through the back doors when the coffee shop opened up to the restaurant. And the choreography went really well. I had practiced it with my friend beforehand, so I had a general idea of what I wanted the moves to be like. To see my talent work on the fighting moves was a really cool experience. I think that's all I can say about it.
They seem like they were really into it too. They were actually having fun.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about it. I loved how nobody felt uncomfortable with it. I wanted to make sure that it was safe.
What do you think about safety on set, and what did you do, not just on that day, but overall, to try to make sure everybody was safe on set? Because there are several little things that could have gone astray, but it seemed like you thought it through well.
Yeah, I think one of the things, especially with the fighting scene, was I tried to constantly check up on my actresses and just make sure that they're okay with it, just to make sure that we were doing it safely. Yeah, overlooking the safety of the set, I think that may be more have been my AD's job. My main concern was how are the talent feeling
how well did you work with your AD?
Yes.
And have you worked with her in the past?
I've never worked with my AD before. And so I hired her on this project because I knew that she would be really good, and she definitely exceeded my expectations. And so I think there was like a really good working relationship between me and my AD.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot.
Yeah, because she was comfortable taking a lot of stuff that I couldn't think of at the moment.
Yeah.
Like how to treat the location. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because sometimes that's overlooked on student sets.
But her being able to take on like safety time and set stuff, like making sure things are good on set, that freed you up to be able to make the artistic decisions.
Yes. Yeah, and that's what I loved about it. It freed me up from a lot of like mental clutter, so I could focus on my talent, and I could focus on just the way the scene overall looked.
Mm-hmm. You also had a producer helping with paperwork.
Yeah, and that was really cool.
You can use their names as long as you think that.
Yeah, Megan Hawley, she was my producer. She was really cool. She took care of the paperwork for background actors and stuff like that. And that was pretty helpful.
We had a bunch of background actors.
Yeah.
And they seemed to like to be on set too.
Yeah. I thought that was so cool. I thought it was cool that they wanted to act, that they wanted to be on set. Because like something I really didn't want to happen was have a lot of like background actors on my set and they just get bored. Yeah. They're just not enjoying themselves. So something I was thinking about was like, I do have a specific vision in mind, but I'm going to also make sure that they're having fun with this, that this isn't just some project for them, something interactive that they don't see me just behind a monitor, but they see me on set.
Working with them. Mm-hmm. So leading up to doing the film, what kind of things were you mostly focused on?
A lot of what I was focused on was having locations locked down and having actresses locked down, which can be tricky. But there are those few that read your idea and they're like, okay, I'm really into this and I really want to commit to this. And yeah, luckily, I think most of my main actresses were like that. Yeah. Yeah.
But also, I mean, with the school part of it, were your actors from?
Yeah, the actors, my main actors, they were a part of my college in the theater department.
So does that go for them for their schooling or whatever?
I honestly I don't think they get any credit for it. I don't know. I have no idea how that works. That would be cool if they got credit for it.
I'm pretty sure, at least from my past at the same university, I'm pretty sure that the theater like majors get some sort of credits from being in things. So if they're even out in town, like if they go to a theater thing, but I'm not sure about movies if that's any different.
Okay. Yeah, which I think definitely should be a thing. If you're acting in a thesis film, that's a lot of good experience. It can be good experience.
Yeah, I think so. I think they all had fun too. I had fun.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And what do you think you're going to have to be focused on from here on out?
From here on out, I have no idea.
Now that we're done with the film.
The post process.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to make a schedule, make a list of how I want to go about editing it, because it's definitely going to take a couple months. And I want it to look the best that it can be.
And sound the best?
Yes, and sound. I want it to sound the best that it can be.
Is there any certain programs like that your school like pushes, like that they want you to be using?
I don't think so, but I highly recommend lynda.com.
That's not a sponsor.
Oh, right.
Yeah. What are like the specific things that the school's asking you to do at certain times, basically, as of now?
The first thing would be an assembly cut. That's a very, very rough cut of the whole thing. I'm not quite sure why exactly, but we have to have that in. And then after that, it's going to be a lot. So the first part is mainly just having your circle takes, your media in the timeline, and cut it up to the way you want it to flow. Mm-hmm. And it's not gonna be edited a lot. It's just gonna be cut up pretty much. And then after that, I think you work more with refining the cuts, refining the way it sounds, refining.
Because every second you stay on something that's saying something.
Yes.
And if you cut too early, that could say one thing. If you cut too late, that could say one thing. But if you do it right on time, they can say exactly what you want.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And I love the post process because it leaves a lot of room for creativity.
Do you want to say what your film is going to be called? Or
Yes. My film is going to be called Human Garbage. And it's about a film called Human Garbage that's a piece of propaganda. And that's all I'll say.
So it's a film about a film that's also the film in the film is a piece of propaganda.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I leave it kind of...
And it just goes from there.
It just goes from there. Yeah.
It sounds pretty interesting for sure.
Thank you.
Although I've seen all of it disjointed. And I've read the script, obviously. Yeah. But and I really like the script also. So
awesome.
I think it's going to turn out really well for sure. And I know how you are. I've seen you have a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And what is that called?
That's called, well, right now it's called Caleb Radecki.
Oh, I thought it was...
I did have a YouTube channel, Candy Club. But
okay.
I switched it. To...
You wanted to be more professional?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, being professional is important, but I think also, like, you have to think of where to be professional and where to be creative. Mm-hmm. And I feel like those things can exist together, but you have to decide on how they're going to exist together.
Right.
And you can't just get rid of one for the other necessarily. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Because you have to be yourself.
Right. Yeah.
This is me getting on to you.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, I've seen a couple of your YouTube films.
Yeah.
And they're very disjointed and, like, they make you have a specific feeling. And I kind of like that. That's I like cool. That they're strange. They're different. They're not like something I would see anywhere else. You know, there's something specific about them. I really like that.
Thank you.
So that's why, that's another reason why I wanted to come and work on this. So,
awesome.
Where do you plan on going after school? Like, not going like physically what city, but like where do you plan on? Do you plan on being a writer director?
Yes, I want to write. I want to direct. I love directing. I would say right now my main passion is directing. Mm-hmm. Just working with actors and just having such a large creative say in a project.
Yeah.
Like, I obviously the director isn't the most powerful person on set, but he has so much creative say on a set, and I that's the one thing I love about a director. Yeah, and as far as after I get out of college, I would love to make a feature.
And you've been working on a feature for school at all?
I've been writing. Yes, I've been writing a feature.
And we haven't talked about this at all.
No.
So what is it called? Am I allowed to know?
Yes.
Or is it a working title? Or
it might be a working title. It's called Down in Merriweather Park.
Down in Merriweather Park.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
can you give me a synopsis?
Yes. I can give you like a general. When I was a kid, I would watch a lot of Sesame Street.
Yeah.
And like I loved the way that the sets looked on Sesame Street, and I loved like just the creativity and the different puppets and stuff like that, and how they could move around. And so I was wanting to write a feature-length film about, and I was thinking about it being maybe a family-friendly film, but adults can enjoy it too. Mm-hmm. It kind of like Sesame Street, where it's like this town and this city of puppets and what happens when the maker of all these puppets falls into the world.
Okay.
So like an actual human falls into this puppet world. Like how do they react? So that's pretty much what I was going for.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that inspire you, like film and video wise?
Yes. I think a big part of my humor came from some of the stuff on Adult Swim, like Tim and Eric and Eric Andre. Just kind of that stuff that you watch that you can't explain at all, and it's just kind of, it's weird, but it makes you laugh. I heard it said that if you watch something and something happens that you completely did not expect, that it completely went against your expectations, then it'll have a much different reaction. Like sometimes those laughs from the moment that you completely did not expect will be more enthusiastic than something that can't be expected. Yeah. So I love making something that builds up to a certain expectation and then like throw in something that is like completely against that.
We talked to recently. We talked to Mr. Miller about that. Actually, he was giving us like a whole lesson, like in the podcast, about like subverting expectation. So it's kind of so all the listeners know about that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's really
cool. When you sit down and write, is there a system to how you get creative? Like, is there certain clothes you put on? Because I've heard some
people
crazy
put on
things.
Certain clothes.
Where they drink certain tea. Like, is there something you do when you write or a place you go, or?
Yeah, a lot of times I think it's not that often when I'm super busy that I can just kind of relax and just think. If I spend time in silence, then it kind of allows my brain to breathe a little bit. And in turn, like if I'm just like kind of like empty out like any thought and just like allow my mind to breathe, I think ideas, they just come.
Yeah. When you get everything away from you and you kind of just are alone and in the quiet.
Yeah.
They just kind of come.
Mm-hmm. And this thesis idea, for my senior thesis, it came to me through a nightmare. And I remembered very vividly the details in that nightmare. And I wrote it down on my phone. And and the script is very different from the nightmare, or else it would be like, it wouldn't make sense at all. Yeah. But the basic premise was I was a film student, and I was invited by my brother to go see this horror film. Mm-hmm. And when I was watching the horror film, I was like, no, I don't want to watch anymore. It's like too much. And when I think about it now, like what the actual movie was, because I remember watching the movie and like what was taking place. And when I think about it now, it's ridiculous and it's like kind of laughable. Yeah. But in the dream, it was terrifying. Yeah. Yeah. Like, without trying to give too much away from my senior thesis, there's a reason why I didn't want to actually show some kind of film. Yeah. Because when I was like in the dream and I was watching this film, I remember this guy in a trench coat, and he was like going into like some kind of cabin in the woods. And when he got into the cabin, he had a table of tools, and he was like kind of like peeling through them. And there was this old man sitting in a chair, and the old man was like yelling at him or something, and the old man was really mad because he knew it was about to happen. Yeah. And the part that got me out of the theater was it's really funny now, but it wasn't funny in the dream. Yeah. The guy in the trench coat, he said he grabbed like maybe a wrench or something, and he said, "I'm gonna take your balls off and I'm gonna staple them to your face." And at that point, I was like, no, I'm not watching this anymore.
Yeah.
I walked out of the theater. And
But
then,
this part, that's not in your...
then no. 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 Yeah. I wanted to make something that could show more people.
Yeah, definitely. I get it.
And then in the dream, like without giving too much away, I walked out and I saw that there had been people that watched this movie. Mm-hmm. And I saw that people were really inspired. People who watched the whole movie the whole way through. Yeah. I saw that they were really inspired by it. Like there was some kind of political thing happening in a city.
Yeah.
And it intrigued me.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So do you have anything you want to like finish up with? Do you have any like closing thoughts?
Yeah. I'm very appreciative of James Gary driving down to help me with sound to do sound, and Olivia Schweller, AD, Megan Hawley, producer, Kelsey Alferti, DP, just like these people were, and the juniors, like even the juniors the class before me working on my set, they were professionals. And I think it just goes to show that no matter where you are, no matter how much experience you have, attitude makes a world of difference.
All right, and we're back. That was Caleb Radecki. What'd you think?
Yeah, I liked some of the things you said. Just listening, being relatively new to the filmmaking, everything. First time really, I guess, directing something like this and working with extras and things like that. Having to organize it all. He went into some detail about the choreography that had to be done for his talent and how he worked with them and worked with his friend on that. And that's actually something that I witnessed too back when I was in school, or watching, I should say, the choreography get done for a film that I worked on. And it's a really interesting process. You start off kind of unsure of what's happening and how to go about it. And it really is like a dance. The technique, the organization, all of that comes together, and you got to really be on cue with it, And beyond that, there's so much more choreography that goes into the actual filming process of the scene that has the choreography, the fight choreography, because now you have two people or more, dancing in a way, fighting, and then you have your camera operator moving around them, trying not to get in their way, but still get the good shots. And that's something that can be very difficult when it comes down to it. And that's actually one of the things that I noticed on a show that I just co-produced in LA about a couple weeks ago. And we had a big scene with a lot of extras and a lot of people some people running around and stuff, and trying to get the camera in and out of the group of people is a party scene without hitting anybody and keeping everybody aware of what's happening, but yet still look like they're at a party, and not aware of the camera. Takes a little time to get just right in a circumstance like that. So it's really something tough to do, and from what it sounds like, he got it done, did it right, and it's good. I look forward to seeing how that turned out.
Yeah, I think it's going to turn out really well. They showed up like way earlier than I did. That's why I was like, I wasn't there because they practiced and practiced and practiced before I even showed up to do sound. Maybe the camera came a little before me, but our call times were just different. So I showed up a little later, and I boomed the fight too.
Right.
So it was pretty interesting. It was kind of a hard place to boom because they had little lights. I don't know what you call them, little spotlights that shine down on certain areas.
Oh, so you create shadows.
Yeah,
from
so
over top. Yeah,
we had to be careful. So that was just an added thing into the fight scene that I had to worry about myself, and also the camera, because they go to the floor at one point, go on top of a table at another point. So you're having to move around with them. So I think it's going to turn out really well, especially if they do some Foley and stuff along with that. I think it's going to sound really good and look really good. It's always funny, with working with camera on the fight scenes and stuff, or any scene really that the camera's moving. When a camera guy or girl, this was a girl, first starts working with me, they're like, "I'm going to be moving over here. I'm going to be doing this." be like, I'll just go with you.
Right.
Like, it's not.
I mean, you're usually right behind the
I
camera.
sort of have like
and move
an
with them.
eye on camera
Right.
at all times, anyways. Because even if the camera's on something, like still on something, like it's on sticks, sometimes they'll pan up and down, left and right. And I learned early on that I just need to make sure, like if they pan up, I need to move my boom up. You know,
Right.
I need to be aware of where that camera is moving.
Right.
Its eye, so
Right.
so that I can get out of the way. So I don't know why I'm talking about sound right now, but
This is all you talk about.
yeah, but yeah. So the fight scene went really well. I think overall, like it was a fun shoot. Like it went pretty quick. I'm even in a part of it. Or I set the boom up. There was no dialogue, so mainly I was just trying to get footsteps of her running somewhere. So I just set the boom where she was running.
Okay.
And where her footsteps would go quieter as she gets further away. So, and then sat down as a part of the scene.
Nice.
I hit record and ran and sat down. So
Nice.
the reason why I wanted to talk to him is because I just see something creative in him that I don't see in a lot of people. Like he's willing to go an extra mile in things. And I feel like he's willing to like push like the envelope and be different and not worry about like what that means to be different. And I feel like film should kind of show you things that aren't normal. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You see normal every day.
Well,
like,
I mean, just film in general. It's another branch of reality in a way. You know, it's something. It's a piece of reality that you can do anything with. It doesn't have to be normal. It doesn't have to take place now. Anything can happen in film, and I think that's one of the most, intriguing things about in the industry, the creative industry, is just the freedom that you have within it to literally be like a little god and create, whatever you want to create. It's
world,
right? Well, one of the things that he'd mentioned later on in the interview was just the writing process. You had asked him about the writing process. And this particular film that he made was based off of a dream that he had. But he had mentioned that, for him at least, finding a quiet place to sit down, relax, and then the ideas just kind of come to you, it works for him. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I agree. I find that pretty helpful too, just finding that quiet place to relax, and I think most writers do. But let's talk about inspiration a little bit, because some people that I've talked to, which is really weird, will say that they're not really inspired by much. Ideas just come, and that's weird to me.
I don't think ideas just come.
It's weird to me. So, but over the last couple of months, you've pitched me a bunch of ideas. I'll just be doing anything, making coffee or whatever, and you walk in first thing in the morning, pitch me an idea without even telling me you're about to pitch me an idea, and I'm like, what? What? And then you just walk away. It's just an idea I had. That's what you say as you walk away. But with those ideas, I mean, I know you have a lot of them, but where are you gathering some of that inspiration?
I listen to a lot of podcasts, which is probably part of the reason why I wanted to start a podcast. But I listen to a lot of podcasts. I watch a lot of YouTube. I don't know. I watch YouTube. I watch people game, but that's not really where the ideas come from. Right. But I watch I've been watching people talk about quantum physics and quantum computing, and I don't know, it's really interesting, and just some of the ideas come from just little things that are in reality that could be twisted into something that could affect the way the world works around us, and I think that's interesting.
Right.
And that's where those ideas come from. So one I had just recently was it's silly. It's not a full story. It's just a general idea. But what if there were no prisons, and you just erase the person who did a horrible thing's mind and just set them up with someone to take care of them until they can get back on their feet. They won't remember anything, you know? But
then the question, the only thing that I find questionable,
the ethics in that. There's a lot of.
It's not even that, but it's where's the justice in that? Because they may not remember, which might be good for them, But what about the families or whoever might have been hurt by the person?
Is that justice, or is that trying to get back at the person who did something wrong?
Which?
Is justice getting back at someone?
See, it doesn't help this though. I'm just saying, like, someone goes to prison.
It's like if somebody slaps you on one side of your face, you turn the other cheek, right?
Well, it depends on what you believe.
If you believe that, then that's
right.
That's what you're supposed to do, right?
But what I'm saying is, like, for example, if somebody hurt someone in your family in a horrible way,
rape them.
Sure. You, the person that was raped, have to live with it, but the person who did the raping gets their mind erased. They never remember what they did it, and therefore there's no longer any.
They're basically a new person.
Any guilt. Yes.
They lost everything.
But did they? Like, I mean, if
you lose your mind, you've lost everything.
I mean, if you go to prison, you're losing everything. If whatever happens, you're losing everything. I'm just saying, like,
you get pampered, you get to watch TV.
But here's the thing:
you get to chill.
If your mind is erased, do you know that you lost everything? No. If your mind's erased and you don't know what there was beforehand to have lost, therefore you're just new. But the people who had to suffer the consequences of this person's actions, they have to continue to suffer the rest of their lives.
And that would make a good story because you can explore all that.
Well, that you could.
Why did you say it like that?
I don't know. It's
I'm not saying
weird,
that this is reality.
Weird.
I'm not saying it's reality.
I'm just trying to find the plot holes here of just the idea. I know it's just an idea.
What if the story is that someone is? What if the story is that someone is seeking revenge in this world that doesn't put people in prison anymore?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going after this person who doesn't know they did something wrong.
See, well, now you pitch it like that, it makes it a much better idea and story.
No, it's the same idea.
Well, no, you just added to the idea.
There could be a lot of ideas added to that.
Well, then you should write them down and then repitch it. Anyway. Yeah, it's interesting that there are people out there who claim that not to have inspiration when it comes to writing. It's just something that they have ideas about. And they're not inspired by, they're just sitting there thinking of nothing and then poof, something, and they start writing it. And not that those ideas are any good, but it's always been weird to me when someone tells me that nothing really inspires them, because I'm like, how do you write then? Because you have to be inspired by something. Even if you don't know you're inspired by something, you're likely inspired by something.
So that's been All the Hats podcast. I'm James Gary.
And I'm Eric with a K.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.
And cut.
Good. Cut. All right. You want me to cut this one? Okay. So we'll go ahead and talk it.
That was simple.
Yeah, let's go.
Same thing?
Okay, second team in.
Okay. Feel free to email us at allthehatspod@gmail.com.
And if you would like to check out our schedule or any other information about us, we are on facebook.com/allthehats.
And of course, be sure to stream us wherever you stream podcasts.